And now, will you please join me in welcoming Cassidy Carlisle, who is one of ADF's courageous female athlete clients. And she's going to share a little bit about her experience. Well, thank you so much for being here. I think it's always good to sort of start at the beginning in telling your story. And Cassidy has been a part of two of the cases that we've been involved in. And these are in cases involving whether there is a Title IX violation when boys come into girls' sports. So will you just talk to us a little bit about how you fell in love with sports in the first place?
So I fell in love with sports probably from the second I left the hospital. I have two older brothers. My family was very involved in hockey. My dad played hockey, my uncle played hockey, my brothers played hockey, and I was on hockey skates probably before I could walk. When I reached 7th grade, I made the decision to switch from hockey to Nordic skiing. Because we didn't have a girls program in my area, and I felt like the physical differences were becoming harder to ignore. So I switched to Nordic skiing, and I also compete in soccer and track and fields.
Yeah, wow. Busy girl. Well, I was telling her in our house, if you're not a 3-sport athlete, you're not busy enough and you're not an athlete. That's what we're trying to emphasize. It keeps them going year round, right? So you met the threshold. Well, I do know that in your junior year, you had a surprise, and that surprise had a pretty big impact on your life and your athletic career. Will you just talk about what happened when you had a boy who was competing as a boy on ski teams, then started competing as a girl, and not just on another team, but on your team?
Yeah, so my junior year of high school, my dad had told me that he'd seen a different name in results, and he follows results like no one else. So I did trust him, but it's definitely one of those things that you don't think it's going to happen to you until it does. And so sure enough, I showed up at a race, and there he was competing. I competed against him and lost numerous of times, but then we became teammates when I made the Maine's Nordic ski team, and we competed at a New England competition together on the same team. And skiing's hard because it's an individual sport as well as a team sport, and so it's one of those things where you show up there, and never ever would I want a girl to lose in that situation. So did I cheer for my own team, which he was on, or did I cheer for the girls? And ultimately, I had to cheer for the girls because no girl deserves to lose to a guy like that.
Right. And you actually experienced it like 11 times where he also...
Yes, I lost 11 times to this male.
Wow. Eventually, you started to speak out publicly about this, but what was it that actually caused you to kind of give voice to your feelings on this?
Yeah, so in 7th grade, I had an experience where I walked into a locker room to change for gym class, and I encountered a biological male in my locker room. And when I went to speak to school officials about it, I was kind of told, well, you can change in an individual bathroom and risk being late to class. So at that point, I didn't really feel like I had a voice. I didn't really feel like I had the opportunity to speak out. So when my junior year came around and this was all happening, still I didn't feel like I had a voice. You know, nothing was going to change, and I was wrong about that. But it wasn't until this year, in my senior year, when Trump signed the executive order, and then my home state decided that they weren't going to comply. So my dad filed a civil rights complaint against my rights and reached out in support of some representatives in our state. I was then asked to speak and share my story at the White House, which has ultimately led to speaking at events with ADF, speaking at the Department of Justice. I've had a lot of support from the Christian Civic League. So just lots of opportunities to speak out now, and I give all the glory to God in that and the platform that He's given me.
Yeah, one of the things that, yes, it's... One of the things that I found so encouraging about your story was that it wasn't just that this opportunity sort of fell in your lap, but you had been praying, asking the Lord to show you, right, how you could play a role.
Yeah, I had been praying for a long time. It's hard, especially with the state that I lived in. I didn't have I kind of felt silenced in a way. So I was praying for somewhere to speak, and God gave me a big platform, which I wasn't sure I was ready for, but I took the opportunity.
Well, and I'm pleased to say that that platform just expanded yesterday. So we have been delighted to see the Trump administration stand up for women and girls the way that it has, including with its executive order. And there's ongoing litigation involving that order, as many of those orders are challenged in court, this being no exception. And Cassidy's been a part of us filing front of the court briefs to assist in that litigation. But yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, we just learned that we also were able to intervene as a party to represent girls like Cassidy in the New Hampshire litigation that is also involving Title IX along with the Department of Justice. So it's great news that we'll be able to assist. One of the reasons that it's so important, though, is because a lot of times, I just want to emphasize, when the government is filing a lawsuit or defending a lawsuit, the other side will have a face that they can put on the injustice that they claim to be incurring. And it's also important that we show the other side of that injustice. As we heard about Cassidy talking about going into that locker room and being told, this isn't your locker room, it's his. You're going to be late to class, he won't be. Those types of things, we need to tell those stories, and it gives an opportunity when we intervene in those cases to tell them. So thank you for your courage in that. I also just want to talk for a minute, as you are thinking about opportunities that you're going to have, what is the message that you want to share, not just with this audience, but with other women and girls who will hear your message?
That you have a voice and that your voice is meant to be heard. God gave you a voice for a reason, and it's important to use it. It's extremely important to use it to speak truth and not hate, but it is extremely important to use your voice and to use it for truth.
Yes. I think if you don't know who we are, it's easy to sort of mischaracterize a position because we sort of go hard against the ideology. I believe the ideology is evil at its core, but people are not. And many people are deceived and they're victimized by it. And General Scrimetti just talked about that. How do we approach the people that are suffering with this, the consequences with love and compassion? And you've actually had some opportunities to do that. Will you share one story about how you've done that?
Yeah, so I have a longtime friend. We actually played hockey together from when we were young. And as we grew apart a little bit, but she made the choice to transition and identify as a male, which was very sad, but we remain friends. She knows how I feel about the issue, but we're friends, and it's all about love. It's all about loving that person. It's my place to show them the love in this world and not to show her the hate, but ultimately, I hope that Christ convicts her of her sins, and that we can be a support system for her.
You've been able to maintain the friendship and the witness through this. That's great.
Yes.
That's great news. Well, and I just want to clarify also, when we think about the litigation that's at stake, in the cases of Minnesota and New Hampshire, it can get easy get it twisted up in our mind. In those cases, the federal government is arguing that Title IX actually requires sex-based distinctions in private spaces and sports and those types of things. On the other hand, we have states who have taken proactive litigation or proactive steps to protect women and girls. And those are laws like Tennessee's and Alabama's that we just talked about, and also Idaho's and West Virginia's. So you've heard and you will hear some words about a BPJ case, a Hecox case. Those are the Idaho and West Virginia cases that are at the United States Supreme Court right now. And so that's about whether states can make sex-based distinctions. And we're hoping that that decision at the Supreme Court, which will happen next term, the court will not only say, yes, they can, but also pave the way for, and they must. And just so thankful. We have General Labrador here today. I'm not sure where he is, but I know I saw him early this morning. Yes, thank you, General Labrador, who is leading that effort on behalf of Idaho with the case at the United States Supreme Court. It's called Hecox. You will hear a lot more about it over this year. But as you think about this issue going before the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, and knowing that women's rights will be championed that way, and how do you feel about that? Does it give you hope?
It absolutely gives me a hope. I tell people, though, that this isn't a political issue. This shouldn't be a political issue. This is about protecting women. But I'm very happy that it's come to the point that it's at, and that we have leaders and we have people that care.
Yes, yes. Now just tell our friends, what are you doing now? Where are you heading? What are your hopes?
So I'm headed to Liberty University in the fall to study biomedical sciences, and hopefully to become a PA and have a family someday.
Yes, so it's great. We're so thankful. Will you please join me in thanking Cassidy? Thank you. I'm very grateful for your time.